Welcome to the Irish Mags Show. We are live. It is our 100th episode. We've managed to survive for 100 weeks straight. Chris Show has been on at least 20% of those and contributed most to the risk of us not lasting. But we are live and delighted to be here. My name is Paul. I will be your host. As always, I'm joined by Alan and Chris Show. But more importantly, sorry lads, we have a very special guest joining us to celebrate our 100th episode, making his Irish Mags Show debut. It is presenter, broadcaster, journalist, podcaster, author, Newcastle fan, and all-round top man, Mr. Pete Graves. Welcome in. Thank you for joining us.
Welcome.
Thanks, lads. Hey, listen, it's great to be here. You know, you mentioned all those things I've done. I think this is the best of them all.
Oh yes,
I love it.
Career highlight.
I'll send you that money later. Thanks.
And happy anniversary to you all, guys. Happy anniversary of the 100 episodes. I've only listened to 96 of them, but I'll have the other. I'll get the other 3 listened to before the end of the week.
Not to worry, and they're the ones that Krisha wasn't on. We well believe it. But Pete, we are delighted to have you here, and we are delighted to have everyone in live here on YouTube, or if you're listening later in the week, of course. Thank you for tuning in. Anyone who is watching us live, get your questions in the chat. Pete Graves has told us he'll answer anything and not hold back on any little secrets or truths that he may have.
Baby.
He did not sign up for that, but here we are. So yeah, get your questions, comments in the chat, and of course, hit the old like and subscribe while we are live for episode 100. And just really quickly before, we're going to put the spotlight on Pete. Pete, we've been very hospitable when you joined us just before we hit record. We'd like to give everyone a false sense of security and relax, but we're going to be putting the spotlight and the microscope on you. But just quickly, Alan, thoughts on 100 episodes when you woke up this morning?
I didn't think we'd get past 10, so I'm delighted to still be here. Let's be honest about it.
Happy days. Krisho, give us some inspiration.
I didn't realize how more handsome and more talented I'd get as the episode went along. I started off a bit shaky, and now look at me. I'm practically a professional podcaster. I mean, Pete's going to learn a lot from this, seeing as he started his own podcast. So, you know,
I feel like I'm already learning.
You're learning. That's what I'm talking about, Pete, right?
I've got better already in this. 3 minutes we've had.
Just in the 3 minutes, but no, it's been a joy and a pleasure every week. You know, I love you guys very much, and it's good that we've grown such a massive community of Irish Newcastle fans. It was never fun going to Dublin Airport, seeing a Newcastle fan, looking at him or looking at her, and then kind of looking away because you're too embarrassed to go over and say hello. But now we're just a big band of people that all hang around and go to Newcastle and light it up. So it's fantastic. Cheers.
Absolutely. Yes, indeed. And a big shout out to all the Irish Mags community out there, all 700 plus of us, because the numbers are growing and we're slowly infiltrating the city of Newcastle in and around the Tyneside Irish Centre.
They know you, Paul. They know you, Paul.
We've met once or twice. And Pete, just so you know, myself and Alan, we always look good when we're recording alongside Chris Show, because just by him speaking, we look better. That's where we'll leave it at that. Chris Show mentioned it, Pete, so it's probably a good time to ask you about, well, let's talk about Here to Compete. So obviously you have your book, which I'm sure a lot of our listeners have read. Myself and Alan both have copies here. Chris Show.
I can't read, Pete.
He obviously has the Kindle copy. But first of all, congrats on the book, Pete. I know it's been a little while since it came out, but huge achievement, really enjoyable read. And obviously the podcast that has followed, which we're going to touch on. But my first question for you, Pete Graves, is how delighted were you that word Here to Compete, which is kind of stemmed from Eddie Howe and gone through the war flags, just the fact that it had your name in the phrase, was that just like, that's the title of my book, done?
You know what? So many people have pointed this out to me afterwards, like, Here to Compete. They're like, oh, it's so clever. And I thought, fucking hell, I didn't even think about that. I'd absolutely fluked it. But yeah, look, there's actually an updated version of the book coming out. It's finished. Basically the first book finished with them losing in the Carabao Cup final at Manchester United and then qualifying for the Champions League. And I was like, God, if they win this, I went to Wembley. I was like, if they win this final, it's going to be the perfect end of the book. They lost. I was like, So when obviously we went and won the thing last year against Liverpool, publisher phoned me up and said, do you want to do that last chapter again? And I was like, yeah, definitely. So there's a new version coming out. It's the first time I've spoke about it, I think. So yeah, that's coming out soon. It'll be out with it's the same book, same front cover, there'll just be a little circle on the front saying updated final chapter, and it's got us winning the Carabao Cup at the end, which was the end of the story that I wanted. So that's that. It's done. I'm not planning any more books. It was the hardest thing I've ever done in my life, bar none. And crying at the laptop some nights because I just thought, once the publisher showed an interest in it, first few chapters were easy to write because I was doing it when I started writing when Mike Ashley owned the club. And I was like, oh my God, the football club I love is becoming so crap. Like, and I just wanted to somehow, I wanted to write something down. It's like almost like therapy to something to take me back to the Keegan times, the Bobby Robson times. You see the Keegan and Bobby on my wall here, and they're my heroes. And I wanted to write something to sort of like get the fans together and remind everyone how amazing the club could be. Then Ashley sold the club. Of course, the new owners came in, and I thought, oh, well, there's no point finishing the book. Everything I've ever wanted has just happened, and we've got new owners. But then Eddie Howe came along, and he just started basically recreating what Kevin Keegan had done. He dragged the club from the bottom of the table up the league, cup final, Champions League. I thought, you know what, this book deserves Eddie Howe as well. So it kind of like got me reinvigorated. Publisher showed an interest in it, and then it was like, right, if you want to do this, you've got to finish it by this point. Otherwise, football dates so quickly. So you've got to get it done. And it was really difficult. I'll be working the breakfast show at Sky, getting up at 4 o'clock in the morning, and then some nights I'd be at my laptop typing away till 3. The publishers were great. There was a lad called Nathan who used to ring me up some nights when I was hitting a block, and he just used to talk to me like therapy, like, just get it off. You talk what you want, and we talked together, and he'd write bits up, and he sort of helped me get it over the line. Otherwise, I was never going to do it. But we got there in the end, and it was mint. And the best thing about it was the launch. Kevin Keegan and Eddie Howe had never met each other ever. And there we go. I had the privilege of introducing the two of them on stage. It was an incredible moment, and it's something that I'm immensely proud of. And they got on so well, and I feel like I still to this day play a bit of middleman between them a little bit. I think in kind of Kevin passes his regards on to Eddie and asks how he's doing, and I think there's more chapters, not literally to write, but I mean, in a sort of sense of that friendship in Kevin Keegan and Newcastle. That there's more stuff hopefully ahead with all that. But yeah, it was great. It was great to introduce two of my heroes there. I just wish Sir Bobby could have been there on the night as well. Been the ultimate. Yeah. I'm sure he'd have loved to have been there as well. I'm still very close to his family, but yeah, that was a great night. And but yeah, and the podcast has now started again, like you said. But yeah, I'm still learning with that one. We did episode 8 yesterday. Got John Joe Shelby on from it's just me going through my phone book basically and getting all the lads back on and having a chat. So we've had some great players on, like Keith Gillespie and Rob Lee.
Yeah, I was having a look at it. So Keith Gillespie, Warren Barton actually joined us for one of our 100 episodes quite a while back. Steve Watson, Rob Lee. I mean, are you able to let slip any plan? I mean, are you just going to hit everyone, Pete, or do you know?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think ultimately it'd be nice to get your Eddie Howes and your Dan Burns and your Kieran Trippier's, and that would be the way I would like it to go down the line. I'll keep asking KK if he'll do it. He doesn't like doing any sort of media, which I kind of understand. I love what I speak to Kevin regularly, like. If not every week, then every other week, and he doesn't like doing anything like, he wouldn't necessarily like to do something like this because he almost likes to keep a low profile, and I totally respect that as well. I think it's quite nice, and I'm with him in concert in a couple of weeks' time. It might be next week or the week after. It might be next week actually, and it's sold out because people are coming from all over to see him and hear his stories. And I think if he does, so I understand why he doesn't do the podcasts and the documentaries and all that, because he keeps it special for the people that come and see him, come to see him at his shows. And I totally understand that, because if he was doing all the podcasts and stuff, we'd all be asking the questions, he'd be telling the stories, and then it's kind of, it's out there. I kind of like how people travel from all over to see him, and I totally understand why he does that.
Pete, has the club ever contacted Kevin Keegan in Eddie Howe's day to kind of get him involved in any way, or would he just never even consider that possibly? Like not like director of football or anything, but just to be part of the setup somehow. Was it ever an initial thought when they first bought the club?
Look, I think, yeah, absolutely. I don't want to say too much on this.
No.
But and I said I would answer just about anything. You know, because you've got
except for that.
I can't speak too much about. But it has been very close, and it's not that Kevin doesn't want to come to the games or anything like that. And people are like, why is he not coming? There's been various different reasons why it hasn't happened. It's just got to be the right timing for everybody. Yes, I believe the club, of course, would love to have him back, and Kevin's not adverse to coming back either. I think it's just going to be a case of finding the right time, which is right for him and right for the club. And there's no deep thing about it. I mean, it's not like he's like, oh, I'm not coming back because it's not like that at all. It's just being that he's an extremely busy man. And the club are so busy as well. And one thing I'll say about Kevin is that he is a huge Eddie Howe fan, and he's a huge fan of Newcastle United. Let's not forget his dad supported Newcastle. He feels the club runs through his veins still to this day, and he's passionately loves Newcastle. And genuinely, this sounds stupid, but I do think he thinks he would like to come to a game where there's no jeopardy, because he understands that every game is massive for Newcastle. So you're going to say, oh, you know, would he come along to a cup final? He would hate the cameras to be on him when it's Eddie's day. And so I think that the most likely scenario would be Newcastle have already qualified for the Champions League. They've got a sort of a dead rubber at the end of the season where there's no jeopardy on it at all. That would be the kind of game where you might see him come along to, and he can enjoy it. But I think I do genuinely think it'll happen. But it's just a case of finding the right time.
Fantastic. Okay, cool.
Unfortunately, as well, as a club, we don't really do no jeopardy, particularly when it comes to calling it.
We haven't had a no jeopardy game for
ever,
like a long time. And you know, there's always something riding on it, which is, you know, even in the dark days, it was like every game you're playing to stay up. And these days, it's like every point's towards getting towards Champions League qualification, so it's easier said than done. You know, it'd be nice for Newcastle to be 6 points clear at the top of the Premier League with one game left, and then I think you'd see Kevin Keegan 100% there celebrating the title on the last game of the season. But it's like you say, the Champions League might be a good one. You know, if they guarantee a top, but you know, if they guarantee the qualification with you know, I know they've got after this game on Wednesday, they've got 4 games left. 3 of them are away, but they've got PSV at home. You know, maybe if they were already safely qualified, that might be one you think, oh, well, there's nothing on this. You know, that might work. But then again, there's every chance that Kevin's on stage with me somewhere in Doncaster or Wrexham or somewhere, and it just won't fit. So it might be something as simple as that.
Well, we'd have to have the calculators out with the new Champions League format to really know for sure if we're safe and where we're finishing, because there's so many permutations and combinations. So yeah, it's hard to keep a grasp on it. We are going to talk about Eddie Howe's Newcastle United. Obviously, look, a very difficult weekend, a difficult fixture away to West Ham, a poor result and not a great performance. And we're definitely going to talk about that. But a couple other things we wanted to pick your brain on, Pete. As we said, we don't want you to be too comfortable here. Particularly, I suppose, look, you've been in this game a long time, reporting on Newcastle, obviously working for Sky Sports. We're all familiar with seeing you on the breakfast show, those of us who are up early in the mornings as well, as well as all the transfer deadline days outside the training ground, outside the stadium. We just love to hear maybe like what are some of the best kind of things or moments from your time working with Newcastle, or even highlights, and the more challenging times or even lowlights having covered Newcastle.
There's been so many. I mean, even the other night I was at St James's Park. I was doing the updates for the Newcastle Spurs Carabao Cup game, and Sky phoned me up saying I'm actually doing a bit of work up north at the moment. I've been living away from home for the last 15 years. We live in Newcastle, the studio's in London. So I've spent the last sort of couple of months working a bit further north. I've been doing a lot of Leeds United, and a little bit at Newcastle and a little bit of Sunderland when Keith's not been available to do it. So it's been nice to be at home, be a bit with the family. But I was doing the updates at St James's for Spurs Newcastle. He talked about challenging, and every time I did an update, a sugar cube was bouncing off. This one bounced off my shoulder, one bounced off my leg, and I'm thinking, who's chucking sugar cubes at me? And I looked up, it was Alan Shearer. And he was like that, and he was chucking those sugar cubes off as I was doing my lives. I was like, Alan, no, you know what? I was very lucky because when I started working in radio, I started as a radio commentator. Bobby Robson was the manager. I was a local kid. I was probably quite young compared to the rest of the press pack at the time. Bobby was brilliant with me. The players were brilliant with me. I guess I was pretty unthreatening. I was just this kind of like kid, and I built great relationships with the likes of Shearer and Rob Lee, and you know, all of the senior players. You know, Shay Given and Harps and everybody, and I've sort of maintained those relationships, and that's really stood me in good stead, even to this day. Like, you know, I was at Leeds the other week, and Steve Harper was there, and of course Sean Longstaff and Carl Darlow both play for Leeds, and I was talking to Harps. They came over, and Harps was like, "Oh, you know, Pete, he's a good lad, you trust him," all that sort of thing. And that stood me in really, really good stead my entire career. But I mean, highlights wise, definitely spending time with Bobby Robson when I was still in radio. Like I say, he was my first manager, and I did a documentary on him, just a radio documentary, but spent a lot of time with him and had dinner at his house. Me and my now wife went up and had dinner with him and Lady Elsie, and I remain good friends with the family. His sons Mark and Andrew host his golf day in Portugal every year, which is a great weekend, and still raise millions for charity. Even though he's gone, he still continues to have this aura. So that's certainly a highlight, working with Bobby, hosting the parade.
I can see him over your shoulder as well, actually.
Yeah,
he's always there in spirit.
He's always there in spirit. And hosting the parade after we won the trophy was amazing. With 300,000 people on the town moor. And I got to stand up there and interview Alan Shearer and Les Ferdinand. I mean, I was effectively the warm-up act for Ant and Dec, who were they were the real presenters, and they were like, "Oh, do you want to present it?" I was like, "Yeah." But when the players get there, Ant and Dec are taken over, but you just have to do this sort of walk. So I was the warm-up act, but I got to interview Shearer in front of 300,000, and Bobby Moncur as well, of course, the last man to lift the trophy, and Les Ferdinand and others. That was a real career highlight for me, without doubt. Now, so many great memories covering Newcastle over the years, the good and the bad. Obviously, the takeover was incredible. I think it's common knowledge in my book. I got wind of the takeover. I think I was one of the first to know, and it was really, really hard because as a journalist, I could have put it straight out on. I think it was the Friday I found out, and the takeover was going to happen on the Tuesday. There was a few days between. And I was like, do I put this out now and risk it not going through because it's been leaked? Because you know how every time it got leaked, it sort of like seemed to fall apart. And I was caught in the middle of, am I going to be like a headline making journalist here? Or am I going to be a football fan who desperately wants the club to get bought? So I was really caught. Don't jinx it. I know it was the worst situation. I was like, you don't want something you don't want to know. And it was those 4 days were the longest 4 days of my life. But what I did in the end, I told my boss at Sky, I said, listen, I think this is happening on Tuesday. I spoke to Keith up here as well as the Northeast reporter, and between us, we kept it secret. And Keith obviously did the big reveal outside St James's, which was brilliant. And I was in London helping to get guests on set and reaction and stuff like that, which was great. But that was definitely it. That was a highlight, not just as a journalist, but I think as a fan for all of us. Just and the misconception, people are like, oh, look at them all celebrating because these people. It was purely because the previous owner had gone. Yeah, it was just it was such a relief. It was a fresh start, and it wouldn't have mattered who the new owners were. It was something different after years and years of just traipsing up to St James's with very little to get excited about, and just anything. 2
relegations.
So it was just brilliant moment. Fresh start.
Were you tempted to try and battle Keith Downey for who's going to be the one that's standing outside the stadium announcing this with all the cans behind the background?
It makes no difference. Everyone thinks we're the same person anyway. So
yeah, that's what I was going to say.
People stop me all the time.
How's your Scottish accent?
Yeah, and his is getting more Geordie. I think his is getting closer to mine as time goes on.
Yeah.
But
might be better than Darmesh. Might be better than Darmeshet's Geordie accent, isn't he?
Tell you what. I don't miss that. We only do the Transfer Talk podcast out sort of during the transfer windows. But no, I misspeak the Doms on a weekly basis. We've just been nominated for an award with the Transfer Talk as well. I think we're up for best sports podcast at some awards thing, which we just found out about, which is nice as well. But
right, well, if anyone watching and listening, make sure you vote when the opportunity comes out. It is actually really enjoyable podcast as well. I actually know Sam as well a little bit, so I'm really enjoying listening to those pods. And it took, Pete, I'm not gonna lie, it took everything I had in me when I was announcing your name, the introduction at the start, to not do it in Darmash's Geordie accent. It's just
to sing one of the songs.
All of our brains. Once you hear, you can't stop. Really quickly, you mentioned obviously working in radio and particularly working in commentary, and we just wanted to play. We've got a couple of messages in for our 100th episode, including one from friend of the show and a legendary Irish mag. You all know his voice. Just put it in the net. Here's Mr. John Anderson.
Hi guys, how you doing? I really enjoyed the podcast that I did with you. Absolutely delighted that you have reached 100. Can't wait for you to reach 1,000. Keeping all those black and whites in Ireland informed on what's going on around the club and everything else is great. It's absolutely brilliant. Hopefully we can get a few more supporters on board as well. Once again, congratulations on the century of programs, and hopefully there'll be an awful lot more. Take it easy, guys. Good luck. All the best.
Legend.
What a legend. The legend that is.
Love Ando.
No, brilliant. And it was he's great. I see him regularly in the press box and saw him on Wednesday, and he's such a great bloke, Ando. And I work with Mick Martin. I hope I'm not rude. You wrote a message from Mick as well. I work with Mick Martin, another Irish player.
We've had Mick on the show,
Great lad as well. He was my first co-commentator at Metro Radio, and he was brilliant. He's a really, really bad passenger. Like, he used to make me drive to the games, and he was the worst, like co-passenger, whatever you want to call it, like backseat driver.
Driver.
Straighten up. What are you doing? You're going too close to the curb. Why are you too close to that car? So my heart used to. I was only a kid. I'd be like, please, Mick, like, you're one of my heroes. Will you please just calm down? I'm like crying at the wheel. And he's like, we're going to be late. He was the most stressful person to share a car with ever. And then I went to Century. I left Metro, went to Century, and I worked with Bobby Moncur at Century, who is like, he's like the most relaxed man in the world. It was like from one extreme to the other. But both great guys. And Ando's brilliant. And he's been on the radio since the dawn of time, I think. Like, when the first Newcastle team I went to go and watch was the Jim Smith team, and Ando was a huge part of that as a player. But then he got into the radio really quickly, I think. And he's brilliant. He's brilliant at what he does. Him and Razor, who's done a great job. I actually lectured Razor at university. I went and did a commentary seminar for the students at Sunderland University. Razor was there. I got them all to record one at home, and everyone did. I said, just go watch a match at home and record the commentary. So I'm listening to them all. And let's put this one on. I go, Jesus, this guy's decent, But I'm thinking it was Razor, and sure enough, he's gone on and got the gig at Radio Newcastle. So much deserved, and he's very good at what he does.
You taught him everything he knows, Pete. That's what you can always say.
You're some man. I tell you what, you're some man for one man, Pete. I tell you, you're some man for one man.
And a couple of, I suppose, just before we will have to talk about the current kind of situation of the club, particularly the current state of the season and all that. But just again, Pete, like, looking, I suppose, what's ahead for you or what's in the pipeline for you. I know you're doing a live show with a couple of notable fullbacks from what I've seen. We mentioned Warren Barton, I think Trips, and also Stuart Pearce.
That's right.
Especially after what happened to his son, which we're all very, very sorry to hear about as well.
I know. It was awful news about poor Stuart, and he's been through an awful time, and obviously spoke to him, after that, and I think someone said he was on TalkSport the weekend. I think the way Stuart is, he'll be hurting like you won't believe, but he will also. I think he's the kind of he'll almost be feeling like he needs to keep going and keep going. Yeah. I think he was immensely ill himself. He was on a flight which had to be diverted because he had some heart issues and they had to divert the flight. He was rushed to hospital, and then I think he was on TalkSport like 48 hours later. I mean, the guy is just incredible. I just think it's just his mentality. So he is coming up. He's confirmed. He's looking forward to seeing everybody. I love him to pieces and send him so much love. And Trips is going to do it, which is great to get an actual first team player on the show is brilliant. So if any of your listeners and viewers here are keen to come, still tickets available. I'd love to see you there. Try and I just think Trips as well deserves such a, as well as us all turning up to give Stuart a lot of love, and Warren Barton, who's coming over from America, but also Trips, who was he was the first sort of major signing of the takeover. After the takeover, he was the one that got it all started, and it was huge. I mean, he was so good in the final as well, wasn't he? Such a big part of that. And he's actually been classy. He had a sort of period, didn't he? When he kind of went. He wasn't quite himself, but he's well and truly back. We realised on Sunday, God, we don't miss him when he's not there. Yeah, just like is not just as a player, but everything he brings to the match day squad and his professionalism, and he's such an important player for us. And on the West Ham one, right? We were so bad on Sunday that I'm not worried about it because it was so crap. It's almost, I think, it was just so bad. Like you're going to get days like that. If we just been like a bit abject, I'd be more worried. But because we were so bad, like Tonali couldn't pass it, Bruno couldn't pass it. Like players that are mint were just shite. So I think that just happens sometimes. And you know what? I do think they'll bounce back Wednesday, and then they've got Brentford away before the international break. It would be just brilliant to go to Brentford and get a win. And you kind of put this away form thing behind us. I think it was just one of them days. It was just one of them days against West Ham. And the one person who sorted out is Eddie. Eddie will. Eddie's so clever. He's so clever. John Joe Shelby said on my podcast, we recorded it last night. He was like, Shelby was only with Eddie Howe for a short period of time. Bear in mind, Eddie Howe was the one that sort of let him leave the club. He was like, it was probably the best manager I ever had in that short period, like best manager. So Eddie will work it out. He'll work it out 100%.
That's a good question that came up there from Kieran Foley. Like Pete, do we like some of the players we were talking about are the last episode about like being a kind of an occasion club, or that some of the lads are confidence players and they only turn up under the lights. They only turn up for the big games. Gordon being a main component or main protagonist here, because if you really think about it, like some of these lads are just not turning up in Premier League games, or at least the away games anyway. They look lost after 10, 15 minutes, or they it's like as if they've never played in the team before. Anthony Gordon, like you said, Al, last episode, he gave the ball away 5 times in 15 minutes?
15, 20 minutes. Come here, nothing went right against West Ham. I said, like, it was just such a poor performance that Pete just said is like, it could happen again, but you're going to get a reaction on Wednesday. So it's tough, but there's nothing to worry about. Could
it be leveled at as Pete, like that the guys are just turning up for the big games under the lights?
I don't buy it, mate. I know what you're saying, but for me, Gordon's been sensational in the Champions League. Like I say, he didn't play well on Sunday. You could see that, but he wasn't the only one. A lot of players weren't themselves for whatever reason. Well, we put so much emphasis on that week. There was 3 games in a week, and Eddie had the ball drill. It's like, right, we've got Champions League game against Benfica, then we're home to Fulham, then we're home to Spurs in the Carabao Cup. Win those 3, and it transforms our season. And there was this big feeling when they won against Spurs. You're thinking, bloody hell, 3 wins on the bounce. All of a sudden, Champions League's looking amazing. We're in the quarterfinals of the Carabao Cup, and we're up there breathing down the necks of the top 6 in the Premier League. And I just think we've got to West Ham and got, he's at the bottom of the table. We've just won 3 out of 3. And in the Premier League, you cannot do it. You cannot just take your foot off the gas for any moment of time. And plus, it's sometimes harder to play against the teams. They're desperate. They've got Nuno just there. He's tried things. They're desperate for points. They do have some good players in the squad. Bowen was brilliant. And, they just played well. And we played shit. And when you put them playing well, again, up against us playing crap, there's only going to be one outcome there, really. And I just think Eddie would have been fuming with that. And I just think, I hope we're looking back on that as an important result in our season, because I was driving. This is how football swings like pendulum. I was driving back to my family we're in Scarborough of half term, and I drove back up to St James's, did the Envisions at the Newcastle Spurs game. Shearer pelted me with sugar cubes, and then I'm driving back to Scarborough afterwards. And I've got the radio on. I'm listening to TalkSport, and I've like Dean Saunders, obviously former Newcastle coach, is on, and Jamie O'Hara, and they were just talking about Newcastle, and they're like, you know what? When you look at Newcastle, like, right, you could argue they're like they've got probably one of the best squads, if not the best squad. They've got 2 good goalkeepers. They've got cover, and they'll go through the tee. And I'm driving along, I'm thinking, yes, we are absolutely mint, by the way. And I started getting away with myself. I was thinking, we could finish second here this season. We are like, Liverpool are struggling. City are like not themselves. Other than us, I was really getting carried away. And then, of course, you go West Ham, and all of a sudden, back down to earth. But we have got a really good squad. And I know we'll probably talk about January. I'm looking at it. I think could you upgrade? Could you sell someone and get someone in there? But we do have cover all over. I really like our starting 11. I think Ramsdale has got to be pushing Pope close. He played twice, and he's been mint both times.
Yeah, he's been great.
But Pope's also good, but he's, it's really tough on that, because, I can see that there's a question mark there. But Eddie's one of Eddie's traits is he's fiercely loyal, and it annoys supporters, but also that is one of the reasons why the players love him so much, because he is loyal. And even the players who are trying to battle in will be like, fair play, whether he does, he gives you a chance. Like, people aren't coming in thinking, God, if I don't play well, it gives you an opportunity. So I don't know. I think come January, if they do make signings, I'm struggling to see where they can improve, like, without spending an absolute boatload of cash, because it's the squad looks good. I see someone here saying we need a left back, but do we need a left back? I don't know whether we do. Burns been good there. You've got Hall to come back in. Livramento was unreal when he played there, and Trippier played left back for England. So
again, it's just those injuries is where suddenly you have those gaps. But like, that's going to happen in a season. You look at we hammered Tottenham during the week, but they were missing about 8 or 9 first team players. We've had a pretty good run of it. But as you're talking about it there, I'm definitely going to ask you about January. Of course I am, Pete, especially with transfer talk on our minds. But question from Dave here, to sum up your thoughts on maybe that game being an isolated incident. We were poor, they were good, but your overall thoughts for the season. Do you think we'll qualify for the Champions League, or does the inconsistency, particularly in the league, does it worry you? And interesting question, does it put Eddie at risk, which I suspect you think it doesn't?
I don't think it should or would put Eddie at risk. Someone said, one of my good pals said to me the other day, Saudi Arabia, they won't be happy with this, with Eddie. But listen, for me, he's actually, I think he's the fourth on the list of managers with the longest spell in the Premier League now. I think tenure. I think he's got years and years left in him. It'd have to be something catastrophic. I think to win the trophy, which we've chased for so long, everything that comes along, I just think he deals with dignity, and I think it would be a huge mistake to let Eddie Howe go. I think the only way he goes is if someone comes and takes him, which scares me a lot more.
With England, maybe.
England, or what if if all of a sudden you know, the other clubs up there, if they come into the mix, you know, what if, you know, a Man City or Liverpool, you know, Liverpool suddenly, Arne Slot was under pressure the other day. What if you just think, God, please no. And in my heart, I'd be like, no, Eddie would stay loyal. But that would be a bigger worry for me. I can't see them ever. They couldn't let him go. Like, it would have to be catastrophic.
Yeah.
Catastrophic. Do I think we'll qualify for the Champions League? I think our squad is in the top 4 best squads in the league. I really do think that. So we need a bit of luck. We need to sort this away form out. I think St James's Park will be a fortress again. We need to get this away sort of thing off our back. But in the same way that we've lost to Brighton and West Ham, we will go to a Liverpool and win potentially, or a Man City and win. We will go to a Chelsea and win. We will have some big away wins on the road this season, which will counteract those disappointing defeats as well. But then we'll lose a game at home we shouldn't lose as well. I mean, that's just football. But I think over the course of a season, we'll be all right. We'll be there or thereabouts. And I think we'll do well in the Champions League. I really do. I think win on Wednesday, we're in a really strong position. We've got 9 points. We've still got a home game against PSV. And then you pick up some points on the road as well. I think we'll be all right. You know, I think we could have a little run. Bit of luck with a draw in that one. Carabao Cup, you know, we've got a great draw. We've got Fulham at home in the quarters. We're in the semi-finals potentially there as well. I just think it's a good season ahead for us. And every season's a good season now. It's exciting times. We just got to enjoy it. Try not to get too stressed out when it's bad. Again, to go back to Chandra Shelby on my podcast yesterday, he was absolutely right. He said in his career, never got too high and never gets too low. He just tries to stay kind of, and I think as fans we can learn a lot from that. Like, you know,
Eddie's like that. Eddie Howe's like that, isn't he? He's a real kind of calm guy. He's like, he doesn't get too overexcited, he doesn't get too down, and he's like, right, on to the next thing. Let's focus. Let's go.
Yeah.
But he did look particularly dejected after that West Ham. He looked like he was confused. He looked confused. Like, how could this possibly happen?
We all were, weren't we? Yeah, you're not watching that thinking there's something not right here. It's like it was just something weird about the whole thing, like stray passes that just were so out of character. So it's like, you know, it's just you just have them days. I think it was the travel not right, it was the blend, but things just weren't right on that day. It happens at every level of football, from grassroots all the way to international games. You know, you just have them bad days that you've just got to hope that they're few and far between, which with Newcastle they tend to be.
Yeah, as a great Irishman, Van Morrison once said, there'll be days like this. And I think in the last few years, we've had a lot of great days rather than poor days. So we do have to take the bad with the good. And I also do think that we are due a run. We do it nearly every season where we go on one of our runs. And there's a lot of things to look forward to, particularly the return of Tino and Lewis Hall. And then, did you know Johan Wissa, lads? Johan Wissa hanging around waiting to make an appearance. Speaking of signings, we do want to talk about January, but Pete, we've had you speaking a little bit there. We're going to give you 30 seconds to take a little break, and we want to play another couple of messages we got to celebrate the 100th episode anniversary of the Irish Mag Show. We'll be right back.
Buongiorno, lads. Well done on reaching 100 episodes. It isn't easy, is it? It's a long, hard road, but well done for getting there. Keep at it, keep smashing it, and let me know when you want me to come to Dublin and have any amounts of Guinness. That would be absolutely lovely. But well done, lads. Keep up the good work on the channel. I'm sure I'll see you on there soon, and hopefully see you next time you are in the tune on a match day. Enjoy yourself.
Hi Ted, Chris, Andy and Paul. Congratulations from everyone at the London Mags on 100 episodes of your podcast. Smashed it. Love you all, boys. See you soon.
Some of our fans there, and also lads that have been on the podcast.
Just hang on. Just want to thank Frank from the London Mags,
Freddie may have got your name wrong, Alan. I'm sure he didn't mean it. He must be on the points again. But shout out to Maddie from the Magpie channel and Freddie from the London Mags as well. Absolute legends. Those of you in the chat watching live on YouTube, do keep your questions coming in, because we are not going to let Mr. Graves leave us without doing a quick fire Q&A just to catch him on the spot and keep him on the edge. Before we do that though, Pete, let's talk transfers. Let's talk January. I mean, a hell of a window, obviously, that just passed. All of the Alexander Isak situation dominating what we all thought would be a much different window in terms of what we'd be thinking about, what we'd be focusing on. Never heard of him. Never heard of him. it obviously turned the window upside down quite a lot, and we end up starting the season without a recognized striker up top, and obviously we got signings in. It was quite late. Do you think that we're still obviously gelling, right? Eddie Howe still working with these players, getting to grips with things. As we mentioned, Wissa hasn't even had a chance to put on a Newcastle kit yet. Do you think the club is actually still looking at January in terms of we still have unfinished business or transfer targets or roles to fill? Or do you think Eddie's probably more likely to want to just get more time with the squad he has and make the most out of the season, knowing we've got a hell of a lot of depth? And as you said, one of the better squads in the Premier League.
Yeah, it's a hard one because I think by selling Isak, they're quite clever because they've bought a whole host of new players. Like you say, new goalkeeper, Ramsdale, who's looked good. Malik Chow's come in, and you got a new defender there who's look very good as well. Ramsey's come in midfield. You've got Elanga, who I think struggled a little bit, but he will come good. He's got pace to burn, and you've got obviously Voltemada, who's I think impressed a lot of people with his all-round sort of players. Right across the team there was some good additions, and I think then by selling Isak, you almost bring yourself back financially to net zero, because of course that 130 million goes straight into the plus account, whereas all the other transfers you can spread across the length of their contract. So from a PSR point of view, we probably could spend in January. I think we're in a position where there would be money to spend. The question is, where do you bring players in? Who do you sacrifice? You can't just think about players on the field. You got to think, what they bring off it. I mean, so you're looking at it. Would someone, we're talking about senior players. It's on the back of the defeat against West Ham. Probably some fans watching this thinking, I'll sell them all, But you got to think about because you look at the senior players. Say, for example, the likes of Byrne, Trippier, Shire, players like that. Could you sell them? Well, you're not going to get much money for them at their stage of their career. So actually what they bring off the field is far more valuable to any transfer fee you're going to get. So, of course, you keep the senior players there. And as we saw on Sunday, you miss, with Trips isn't there or if Burns not there, I think you're on share, you miss these guys. So then you're looking at who you could sell. And then you're kind of, I guess, looking at someone like maybe Joe Willock. Maybe is he someone that you would think, well, there's a sellable asset. He's not in the 11. He's
yes. Sell Joe Willock. Sorry. It just came out naturally. So
he played, but wasn't he good against Spurs? I thought he was.
I thought he was good.
Yeah.
Was he good against Spurs? Yeah. Okay.
He was good against
Spurs.
Spurs.
He played one good game, Pete, in what? 25
appearances. I wonder whether actually, in hindsight's a wonderful thing. I wonder whether Eddie would have been well suited to play the likes of Willock and Miley on Sunday, and maybe rest Bruno and Tonali. And you never know. It might be a different outcome because given players coming in thinking, right, I really want to perform well today because I want to. So I'm not going to tell Eddie Howe what to do. He knows a lot more, but I just wonder whether you would have played players like that. But maybe Willock. I don't know. I think you'd have to. I think you've got to make space for someone. If you're going to bring someone in, obviously we're still yet to see Wissa. Could they bring another striker? And I think if they do, they sell Asula. Is that an option? But I think Asula's done well. He seems to. Some of the fans seem to like him. Maybe you sell Asula and you look to bring somebody in. Some people have suggested Harvey Barnes, but you've got to have someone who you would sell for. People say, "Oh, Gordon," But again, if you get in the Champions League final, who are you going to want on your play? These you say they're only big game players. We're going to have big games this season, and when those big games come, who are you going to want in your squad? There's not many in that squad where you think. Whereas back in the day, they'd be like, "Oh, well, you can put." I used to play Football Manager all the time. I'd always be Newcastle manager. I'd sell I'd put the whole squad up. There you go. I put the whole squad up for sale. I had no affiliation with any of them. All the rest. But nowadays it's like I quite like our squad. So it would literally be can you bring one in? Maybe
who's the guy that plays the Swedish guy that plays for Atletico Madrid? Sorloth?
Alexander Sorloth, the striker.
Sorloth.
Yeah.
His name has been going around a little bit.
Yeah, but he's going to cost you 75 million, and you already have £50 million and a 80 or 60 million pound striker there. You can't have 3 strikers all vying for one spot. It's just not going to happen.
Or change the formation, Eddie. I mean, yeah, wants to maybe, and maybe leave Joe Linton on the bench for a while so he stops going around assaulting people. That tackle, Spurs tackle, who did he tackle? That's
Porro. It wasn't that bad. No, the Kudus tackle where the screenshot makes it look a million times worse than it was. It was a bad tackle.
The way I feel about that tackle is if Joe Linton wanted to hurt him, he would be hurt. That's the way I look at it with Joe Linton. So he's actually done well not to hurt him, in fairness.
I think again they said that on Talksport. I was listening. I was at the game. I was listening to all the analysis afterwards on the radio, and Dean Saunders said, he said Newcastle must take it as close to the line as you can possibly take it in so many different ways. And I love that about Eddie's players. Yeah, they do. There's a lot of yellows where you think, oh God, you could have easily gone. It's as close to the line of a red as you can get without getting a red. And I just think quite like that about us. The sort of shithousery and stuff that we get thrown our way. I quite like all that, and it's the fine margins in top level football that we desperately were lacking for so many years, and now we sort of have it, and I've got no issue with it whatsoever. I think that's all down to the genius of Eddie Howe, really. But yeah, January, could you bring one in? If at this stage now, I'd rather they spend, like we're talking about, I'd rather they spend 100 million on someone who's really going to wow, you make a difference, rather than they're not going to bring in 5 players at like 30, your 30, 40 millions that is bringing in your Jacob Ramseys and your Malik Chows and stuff like that. Great additions to the squad. He's done the squad building in the summer. So now if you are going to bring in a player in January, I think you go, right, let's spend the Isak money on someone that's going to make the rest of the world take notice and go, wow, they signed him. Someone, a transformative signing like that. I don't know who that player would be, but that as a fan talking, that would be what I'd rather he did that than brought in 5 players into what's already a talented squad. Just bring in one
and a big squad, a busy squad, as you said. There's we do have a fairly full cohort as well.
Yeah, we do have a few players coming close to the ends of their contracts as well. So so there will naturally be sort of spots popping up, but yeah, it's a really tough one. But they've got the new sporting director in, they've got a new CEO, they've got a whole new. So these guys are going to want to come in and make their own footprint as well, and a bit of a spotlight on the club for that, really. So it'd be interesting to see how that relationship between.
Have you met them? Have you ever met them before?
Yeah, I met David, the CEO, a couple of times. He seems like a really, really great bloke, very positive. I'm yet to meet you. Sporting director, but hopefully that'll happen soon. But David seems a very positive person, and I think Eddie Howe said the same thing. Just very positive vibes. Once he's worked at Real Madrid. I mean, these guys, the transformation of the club is ridiculous, isn't it? I mean, you're looking, what Fisher's done it. It's Nottingham Forest. I mean, it's like. The club's in good hands, I think. All over from behind the scenes as well.
Yeah, fully agree. And look, everyone knows that January is a very tough time to operate as well in the market. So I think the club is shrewd enough that they would only go in if there was a really good opportunity that presents itself. And I think it would be totally fine and acceptable. And it's the first time I've said this for a while, if we didn't do anything in January, because we did freshen up. We brought in a lot of names, and Eddie Howe, I think there's more time to be had with those players on the training pitch, and I think that run is coming. Right, yeah. Pete, we're approaching the end, slowly approaching the end of the show. We'd love to go through some quick fire questions from our listeners. Before I do that, I do see one in from an Irish, let's call him an Irish Mag OG, one of the legends of the Irish Mag community, Mr. Declan McGrath, who incidentally has joined us on the podcast before and was kind enough to send us in a message for our 100th episode of the Irish Mags Show.
I just want to say congratulations and well done to Paul, Crisho and Alan from the Irish Mags podcast. Great addition to the online podcast world. Love every weekly edition, and you've become the 3 wise men of the Irish Mags, and as we all know, that the 3 wise men are not just for Christmas but for all year round. Well done, boys, on the 100th edition, and I look forward to the next 100. So enjoy, take care, bye bye.
Legend.
We've had people
Thanks very
talking about
much.
the next 100, the next 1,000. We're week to week here. We're like Eddie Howe. It's just the next episode is the most. We don't think beyond the next episode.
Yeah. Just like him, though, you've earned a few more years, guys. Definitely, you have.
Yeah,
So,
thanks.
Yeah.
Until
Hopefully.
we inevitably run out of contracts and have to retire into obscurity. But a question from Declan here, Pete. Who was your favorite player growing up, and the top 3 you've seen live in a black and white shirt?
Mickey Quinn was my first love, really, first hero. In fact, next episode, I got episode 8 of Here to Compete. I got former Newcastle number 8 in Shelby. I think episode 9, I might go for Mickey Quinn because he was my first number 9 hero. He
probably never threw sugar cubes at you as well, which instantly puts him above Alan Shearer, right?
Well, yeah. But I've always loved our strikers because as a crap footballer as a kid, and still to this day a crap footballer. But I always play centre forward, and I love the art of being a striker, and how you can go through games, and sometimes you might only have a couple of touches, but you still manage to get your goal. And I always loved that sort of almost the art of chess of playing as centre forward. So Mickey Quinn was my first hero, and loads of strikers that followed. Obviously, Andy Cole was then my next hero, then Les Ferdinand, Shearer. I love Voltemade, although I don't think he's a 9. I can't wait to see Wissa play. I know a lot of Brentford fans, and they say, they were gutted when they lost Mbeumo, but actually were more gutted when Wissa left. I'm just so gutted for him that it's all happened like this with him not getting in. But Mickey Quinn is my first hero. I love Bruno as well, and Tonali, but it tends to be strikers for me. I think I've made no secret. I love trips. A lot of my favorite players are in this team now. But then the entertainers team like Shearer and Rob Lee, and I love Gary Speed. There's just so many. It's so shaky.
He loves them all. I
love them all, man.
It's like asking him who his favorite child is. There is no right answer.
What's funny though? I tell you what's mad about my job is that I get to interview. I interview them all. All the Premier League managers and players, and I always had this weird thing that dates back when I'm a kid, but I only get nervous if they're a Newcastle player. So I could be interviewing Pep Guardiola and not a care in the world. And then all of a sudden I'm face to face with Paul Dummett and I'm like, oh my God. Nervous. There's it's so weird. It's something about that. I don't know what it is. It dates back to me being a little boy and standing outside St James's, but I still get nervous with Newcastle players somehow. But I don't at all if they're anyone else.
It's good. I hope you never lose it as well, particularly as a fan, obviously, fan first and reporter / pundit / broadcaster journalist second.
Always.
We have a question in from Argentina, lads. That's how big the Irish Mags are.
Come on.
Do you think it'd be more logical to aim for the Europa League and try to win it obviously next season instead of trying to go to the Champions League, which we may not be realistically expected to win or go far?
Kind of I do like the theory a little bit. When we missed out on the Conference League because Manchester United and Erik ten Hag unbelievably beat Man City in the FA Cup final, I was like, no, we're not in the Conference League. I was gutted because I thought in my mind it's like we'd win the Conference League and that would be the start. But as it happened, we didn't qualify and we won the Carabao Cup. And I think, well, had we been in the Conference League, would we have still been able to win the Carabao Cup? Probably not. So actually, it's that sliding doors moment. We didn't get the Conference League, and then a few months later, we were winning the Carabao Cup, so we got our trophy anyway. But I do get the point of we've got one trophy in the bag now. I think you add another one, and all of a sudden it's this momentum of now we're a club that wins trophies. So as much I love being in the Champions League, I get what you're saying, Alexis. Do I think we could win the Europa League? Yes. Would it be another fantastic trophy? Brilliant, yeah. And it also automatically qualifies you for the Champions League the next season. And it's held in such high regard by the rest of Europe as well, the Europa League. So I understand your theory. I wouldn't be devastated if we finish 6th and we're in the Europa League. I think I'd be like, yeah, fancy a bit of that next season. Obviously, you want to finish as high as possible. You want to qualify for the Champions League. But to be in the Europa League and to win it would be massive. So yeah, and a great point here from Clon Lad as well, saying yeah, it's a lot of money in the Champions League, but trophies trophies are important for our football club now. I think it's been so long without winning anything. To add another one, it's like soon. I'd love us to win the Carabao Cup again. I'd love us to have a go at the FA Cup this year. And we need to be a club that wins trophies.
Yeah.
I mean, we've had a taste, and we want more. We want to drink out of more trophies, particularly if we can get the Irish involved. Another question here, then, Pete, from Paul Slaughter, one of the renowned Irish mags from the south of the country.
Paul.
What does Pete think the new stadium, quote unquote, rumored, etc.? No new stadiums have been confirmed or announced, but what do you think it might hold if said new stadium does appear on the horizon?
70 million. 70,000
million.
70 million. 70,000. Sorry, Paul. 70,000. Yes, 70 million. But no, I was thinking about PSR. 70,000 is what I'm going to go for as a rough guess. I think there were some rumors of 63. I think it'll be. My guess would be around 70,000, but it's a pure guess. You know, we've all seen different plans and heard of different things in the background, but I do think ultimately Newcastle will get a new stadium, and I think it'll be roughly 70,000, but with the ability to maybe add later on. But that for me would be a sensible figure.
Yeah,
definitely not 70 million.
Yeah,
no, probably not 70 million. The clown lad is saying 1 billion seats. Very ambitious. That is fairly ambitious now, but I think there's also talks that, like, you know, if there is a new stadium, that they might look at 70,000, but with later thinking of could we add more if needed. But I think it will be down the line. I think right now, the capacity of St. James's Park is at capacity just based on the ticket demand. So obviously they'll have access to numbers that we won't have, and that will shape those decisions as well. I mean, I have to put you on the spot, Pete. Are you in the camp of stay where we are and try and extend and max out what we can do there? For example, if we could somehow add 5,000-10,000 seats to the current site, or are you in the camp of new stadium?
It's really difficult because I've been going to games since I was a kid, and I still sometimes sit there and I get emotional. I look down, I look at the Millburn. I used to stand in the Millburn paddock as a kid, and I was there at Keegan's first game, and I look around and think, God, what a transformation. But I'd probably edge towards new stadium purely because I think what you could do, what you could do with a new stadium and with regards to all the facilities you could build. I've heard some plans about what they would do with St. James's Park and walkways with like shopping center, all this kind of these things that have been mentioned to me by different places. I just think, goodness me, the potential will be massive. So I'll shed a tear when I say farewell to St. James's Park, but I'm probably in the new stadium camp. And let's face it, it's not like if we'd won the title 25 times and we'd won every trophy, we won the Champions League, I'd be thinking, let's not change anything. But it's not exactly been the luckiest stadium for us. I mean, we haven't won anything for all those years. So I'm thinking, like, you know what, fresh start. We've got new owners, new ambitions. So why not have a new stadium? And the Geordies will make it. You know, and look, the atmosphere is a good debate because there are nights where that atmosphere is absolutely class. I think the PSG night was the loudest I'd ever heard it. We beat PSG 4-1 and it was brilliant. But then I was there at Dortmund, we lost one in there. It was quiet, and you just think, I'm a fan myself, and I don't know what it is, because sometimes I'm like, God, I'm not singing as much as usual either. So I'm part of this here. I'm part of the problem. So I think a new stadium, you could really think about the sort of the audio of the stadium and how they build it to get the best of the noise, and I just think we all need it. I think we all need it.
Yeah, we do. Because you look at West Ham, like the West Ham Stadium. I mean, it's really shocking for atmosphere down there. They seem to be miles away from anywhere near the players, and it's hardly like their old ground. But yeah, in terms of acoustics, Pete, it would be very key and very important to try and maintain what is at St. James's Park, a wraparound. I've seen some of those sketches, you know, to have like a proper Bayern Munich-esque wraparound stadium.
They'll get it right. One thing you can guarantee is they will get it right. They've got the owners that have the financial muscle to get it right, and they will. And they've got the people behind the scenes with the ambition and the vision to get it right. So I think it'll be very exciting. And I think, like I say, we'll all be very sad. But I think they can. I think they could do it and still honour St James's Park in the right way. You know that it's still a part of the club in some way. Whether they build a smaller stadium for the under 21s in the women's team or whatever, or whether they have a concert venue, or whether it's a bit like the Spurs stadium where you've got shops and bars leading up and it's like a vibrant sort of street that would run through. So whatever you do, there's a way of honouring the memories of St James's Park and the history, but also moving on to the next phase of our football club.
Totally agree. Love it. As we said, football is moving into the future. We need to move along with it, and this club has a whole lot more to offer, I think. Right, Pete, last question. I'm going to put you on the spot here. You talked about getting it right. This is the ultimate question. Where will Newcastle United finish in the Premier League this season?
Oofed.
If I'd have come on last week, I might have said second, because I was convinced myself we were going to finish second.
You were high on sugar cubes at the time.
I was high on sugar cubes. The West Ham defeat was a worry, but I think with our squad, and we've got one of the best managers in the league, and we've got one of the best squads in the league. I'm going to go fourth.
Fourth. Ooh.
Wow. Yeah.
Fourth.
Wow.
I'm fully behind that.
Yeah,
and Alan and Chris show 5 seconds each. Time to put our cards on the table. I'll do it myself. We haven't done it for a while. Where are you feeling for Newcastle?
Fifth
for Alan. Fourth to beat Chris show.
16th is good enough. 15th, 16th. No, I'm not joking about you. So wait, don't kill me. No, look, I think we're going to get 5th or 6th, probably 6th, because there's just been a couple of games already so far that we've just dropped too many points when it comes to the tight end. I know there's loads of games left, but yeah, we'll just miss out on 5th. Unfortunately, we'll get 6th. Boom.
Excellent. I underestimated us last season at my peril, so I'm not going to do it again. I'm going to go 5th as well. I do think we have that run in us. I think it's coming, whether it comes after Christmas. Obviously, these international breaks are a bit of a pain as well. So I do think
look at us all. We've all got top 6. I mean, aren't these just outrageous? Do you ever have to pinch yourself and go, Jesus? Sitting here like, 5th, 6th, or 4th. It's mad, isn't it? I mean, it's mad. It seems like 5 minutes ago that it was absolutely bleak, and we'd be like you said, Chris, 16th would be buzzing, wouldn't we? Getting 16th. Oh, we've crept into 15th on the last day. Oh my god! It's great times.
Speaking of the word bleak, Pete Graves, thank you so much. If you're ever in Dublin, we need to get you down to the Bleecker Street Bar. It's a pub in Dublin where it's our HQ. The Irish Mags HQ. We have the upstairs all kitted out. It's Newcastle colours, Newcastle flags, posters, paintings, the whole lot.
Wow,
and that's where you want to be. If you're ever in Dublin on a match day, get yourself down to the Bleecker Street Bar. You'll be more than welcome. And again, just a big thank you for jojoining us to celebrate our 100th.
Thanks very much,
great having you on.
Lads, it's been a pleasure, and I'll come on for episode 200. It would be great, and really enjoyed it. And I'll definitely come see you in Dublin when I'm over, lads.
Lovely.
Sounds good. We'll be delighted to have you. A big thanks again, and to Alan and Chris show, and to everyone who has dialed in, listened, or watched, or commented and asked questions, and anyone who has watched any minute of our 100 episodes so far to date. We're still going strong as our Newcastle United. We want to keep bringing you more episodes every single week and getting behind the team as we always do. Make sure you're following all of the Irish Mag socials, which are below. And of course, Mr. Pete Graves. I'm sure you already are all over Twitter, Instagram, Bebo, all of the above. Just find it on the internet. Bebo. We will be back for more Irish Magnus next week. So until then, we shall say, how are the lads? Slán, go fall. And we see you all very soon. Gentlemen,
Slán,
good luck.
Thanks, good luck.